All right, how does one do videos again? It's been a hot second. So welcome back to Shelf Centered. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Let's just keep the conversation going. I appreciate you coming by. This is I wanted to just review episode 4. I just watched it last night and had some had some thoughts, and so I wanted to get them out there. I technically haven't even reviewed 1 through 3 yet, which I will get on. I did just kind of an initial reaction to the first episode. So I wanted to kind of rewatch those before I got into any kind of details on those. But anyway, this one's fresh. Thought I'd jump into it. It's the newest. And so here we are. I wanted to do this in a couple ways. Just first of all, starting out, no spoilers, just a couple no spoiler thoughts for the episode, and then get into spoilers, and I'll let you know when that is. But I want to make sure that the spoilers are still only going to be up through the episode. I want to talk about that. So if that, because I. Just to explain where I'm coming from, I have read the entire series. I just finished the last book, A Memory of Light, earlier this year in January, and I think pretty much I think that explains everything. You can't not be a fan if you've read 14 plus books at about 600 to 1,000 pages apiece. So anyway, there's where I'm coming from. To get out just at the beginning, I just keep seeing kind of this like reaction from fans that we're very disappointed and frustrated with this, and I think for me, and maybe I just have low standards or something, but I don't think that's the case. My thought is, and I've never understood Stephen King or like Christopher Priest, who were really frustrated with the adaptation of their books, because when it comes down to it, I mean, as long as you have something that's good, I feel like you got to be going, this is great, this is when it's something good that is, as long as you have something good that came of it, that has your name attached to it, and that people generally like, I think you kind of have to be okay with that. And you can see that with the Wheel of Time right now, with just because you could have, I mean, an Aragon or a Last Airbender, or I mean, insert all the terrible adaptations of everything, Assassin's Creed or whatever it may be. The adaptations, I feel like it's more likely that you're gonna have a terrible adaptation, and who cares if it followed the book at that point or the original material. So as long as it's good and it's associated, I mean, the worst case scenario is if you have two good things that you can enjoy them both and they might have a different ending each. That's a positive for me as a fan, at least. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. And you could see that the Rotten Tomatoes score for the Wheel of Time has really, it started off just barely eking by that fresh rating to really being a solid 80% now with it was like 80 plus percent, 86%, is that what I saw on the critics, and then 80% for fans. And I think that's warranted. So far, I've been very impressed. You typically, in these kind of fantasy shows, it's with this much magic, and I've talked about this before. Game of Thrones, for instance, is pretty low magic, and so you don't have to go into that too crazy until like the later seasons when they had the money for it and could really go to town on it. This series, I mean, they've clearly thrown the money at it and made it look good, made the magic look good, made it look realistic for what it is. It's magic, and so it's always going to look a little weird. The changes are a little funky so far, but you have, I mean, and I'll get into the pair and marriage and some of those differences in another video, but this one, so finally, This is actually, so you kind of have the split up, right? So we're mostly still following the Eye of the World, though, and as much as people don't think we are, we definitely are. We split up at Shadar Logoth, and you've got Rand and Matt, and instead of them slowly making their way because they learned, so that's where I'm going. I guess I'm a little concerned because where does it have Rand, for instance, learning his fighting? He didn't see any practicing with Lan like he did. You don't see he and Matt kind of practicing the lute or whatever, the flute or whatever they're playing, the instruments. And so, which is what got them. But instead of that, we now have Rand and Matt with Tom. And so, I guess that makes sense. And they're going to be kind of shepherded with Tom. Although, there was kind of some of that, it felt good to have them independent, I think, in the books. I still am going, I'm fine with this right now. Then you also have Perrin and Egwene. And they've met up with the Tinkers. And you start out kind of being a little suspicious of them because of just how it's kind of brought up. Anyway, how they appear, I guess, just kind of out of the shadows, and you got the wolves chasing Perrin, and so as a book reader, I won't get into that, but that's exciting. And then you've also got Lan and Moraine with Nynaeve, who's finally caught up to them. And so, and they're with the Aes Sedai who've captured Loghain. Now, again, I feel like the set pieces are all in the right places. Following the Eye of the World, I realized I have a bookmark where my youngest daughter really wanted to read this for a while, and we got clearly 32 pages in, and she lost interest, but that's understandable. She was, I believe, about 4 at the time. So anyway, that I feel like, and again, just kind of overall, because I feel like I can't really get into too much. That's why I said a short, non-spoiler portion. I can't get into too much without spoiling things for the episode. But it's very exciting. It was a well-done episode. I think I just rewatched the first episode. I liked that one. I don't know why people are giving that one a hard time. When those Trollocs show up, man, it is just literally. I was still anticipating and concerned, and then to watch Moraine and Lan kind of do their dance together as they fight them and together, and it was so great. I just love that. So it's hard to beat that for me. But again, this one had some great moments, and from the books, though slightly changed, but excellently done. All right, we'll jump into spoilers then. All right, spoiler time. So I wanted to talk about just a couple of the great events, the interesting occurrences here. First of all, Loghain, and I guess I could have talked about this in the non-spoiler section, but Loghain, he's rocking it right now. I forgot to look up the actor, but so far, Loghain with a bit of a Spanish accent, he's killing it. I'm getting what's his name? Gosh, Martel vibes, Pedro Pascal vibes, which is a good thing. Those are good comparisons to Game of Thrones. And it's so. Anyway, he's nailing it, and I love how they're doing the interplay between the Aes Sedai, who are the female wielders of the one power, and the male, and how they can't even see that he's doing things, and he's just sitting there barely doing anything. And I'll keep along this thread. Some of the stuff that happened, not quite along the lines of the book, but again, still just showing Loghain's power, which we just didn't focus on him too much in the books, which is, funny enough, with, 4+ million words, there really wasn't a whole ton of Loghain focus, and but I do like that it shows he's fighting against the bad parts and the bad voices, and trying to do what's right, and again, that's why he's such a fan favorite. I won't go into more spoilers on that, but he anyway, thought he's nailing it. But it interesting, again, his power where shows just him fighting against the Aes Sedai, even in that just calm manner as he's just sitting there caged up. And I just thought it was really well done. It's showing just how powerful some of these people can be and how much it takes. And then the fight between the Red Aja and the other Ajas. And I love how it's setting up this, like, the Greens are already like suspecting the Reds and going, oh well, what happens? And we're already having that discussion of, well, what happens if we get to the last battle and the Reds have gentled the dragon? Are you kidding me? And he can't even help us. So that's excellently done. So that thread's really well done. And then, I mean, to kind of set up where Moraine kind of goes, look, the dragon's going to be way more powerful than you, Logain, and then to immediately have Nynaeve, who, again, book readers definitely know, is, and again, this is no spoiler outside of what you saw in the episode, she is like so powerful, so insanely powerful, and so like as the most powerful that probably anyone's seen ever, and so to have her show up, and again, just after, she didn't even need any power to fight a Trolloc. She didn't need any power to fight those guys that she battled, the Logain's people. She's so good. I love her so much. I was really annoyed with her in the books, but man, is she killing it right here. So I think, anyway, they're just nailing it on Nynaeve. Come on, again. You can't fault that part of it, I don't think. So anyway, okay. Perrin and Egwene, kind of just not much happening there. It seems to kind of just be floating along here. They've kind of had some questions, and it definitely is setting up the Tinkers and getting us some information on them, which does become important. So you got to have that. And again, I know I said I wouldn't go. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, okay, for the books. But anyway, it's so, like, a lot of what I'm watching here is also thinking, oh my gosh, just starting to set up the Aes Sedai kind of in-house bickering, and just to the extent that it really becomes, it's like, oh my gosh, they have so much to set up, and again, they're doing a great job with it, I think, getting it all in there. Okay, Tinkers, there we go. We got, okay, and all this, the philosophy of, hey, we're going to be peaceful no matter what, and I think that's absolutely admirable. And I again, I think they don't have bad points. So anyway, let's see, Rand and Matt, and they and that is, again, one of the very exciting parts, though there really wasn't a whole ton of focus on them. But again, I'm loving every instance of Tom Maryland being involved in the show, so that's really fun. But then to have them kind of get, the books do talk a lot about, I mean, it gets into the characters' heads, and just, they know what they know, right? Like a Two Rivers person, they're going to know their bow and arrow. They're going to know some basic things about farming, being shepherds, all those things. They know their stuff. And people, and I liked that, when Rand, Matt, and Tom are kind of held up at arrow point by the family, that, he automatically goes, hey, I see that you're holding that bad. and or poorly, in a fist instead of with your fingers or your fingertips, and so he immediately sees that and kind of sees that there's really not a huge threat there. But again, him being honest, trying to be like, hey, we had designs, but here's where it kind of falls out, and then but just to that ending part where you have Rand going into his dream and, knowing something, he's definitely being tracked, and he can be tracked by the Dark One or some minion of the Dark One, whatever it may be. We don't know exactly what's going on yet, but he wakes up, Matt's having his struggles, and Tom clearly thinks that Matt can channel, and so again, you got these it's an interesting take that we don't know. It's unknown, and that's why I haven't gone into who the Dragon Reborn is. But to at least in the books, maybe it's changed. I'm starting to think maybe we aren't gonna no, because in the books it's very clear, like almost right from the beginning. But again, we're kind of setting up who is it? Who it could be any of these five, and again, the 5 is dropped. That there's 5 instead of 4 that was mentioned earlier. So the Dark Friend mentioned 5, and Matt's trying to go, what's this 5 now? And I think we see, oh yeah, it's clearly Nynaeve is being mentioned now in the 5. I think that's pretty clear. But I keep getting myself sidetracked, which is unnatural. Anyway, but just to see that the Dark One kind of that influence, because that's just something that they're fighting from day one. But then, oh my gosh, with Matt showing those signs, but we also know that he stole the dagger, and then he's holding the dagger, and you're going, did he just kill this whole family? Oh my gosh! But then he's the one that spots the Fade, the eyeless, the Myrddraal. And then it was just, the relief at seeing, okay, there's a Fade up there instead of Matt having done this. Like, there's a lot of relief there, I'll be honest. And I was just, it's one of the things with Matt is I think the first episode, having watched that just again last night as well, it sets up this kind of dual nature of Matt, where at one point he's stealing from somebody to go sell it to Padan Fain, and then at the other moment he's the one saving his sisters when his family won't do that, his parents won't do that. So I think they're really doing a good job of this, like making this gray character, like he's not who you think he is, but also maybe a little bit he is. Anyway, I think they're doing a wonderful job with that. But then having Tom fighting the Fade and then running off, and again, that's very much like the book. That is the book. Other than the fact that that was more on a boat, and anyway, but again, that's I think just a minor issue. So now they're split off from Tom, and maybe they'll try to do what they can of being Gleeman. I don't know. I doubt they had time, but to learn any instruments or anything. But still, I think so far so good. It's still very much setting up the things it needs to set up. It's I'm getting so excited for just the end of this season and where we're going to get with things, and just the slow reveals of things, and there's so. This was an episode that just reminded me of just how much needs to go into this. We haven't even gotten to the Aiel. We haven't even gotten to so many. The countless other nationalities and cultures, and the thief catchers, and anyway, I know it's just we haven't even touched barely the surface, but I think it's doing a good job, and I'm very excited for this one. I think I'm loving that first episode, I think, but this one definitely gave it a run for his money in my book. And I think our standout and my favorite character right now is Nynaeve, and that's going to be hard to beat, to be honest. So anyway, what were your thoughts? What did you like, dislike? What were the changes that just you couldn't live with? I would love to know. And where am I wrong? I'm happy to be wrong. I think it's doing a good job, even despite the obvious changes. I'm like pointing them out because I got my wife watching the first episode, and so I'm so excited. But I'm pointing out, and she's like, "Okay, you're going, like, you're making this boring by by adding every detail to everything that's happening." And so I need to hold myself back and just let her enjoy it. But it is helping me go, "Oh yeah, that wasn't like that in the books. That wasn't like that in the books." But at the same time, I don't know. It's not every single thing needs to be from the books onto the screen here. And I think as long as it's doing a good job, that's what matters. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you stopping by, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.